enforcement, particularly as now obviously the feds, the FBI, and the NYPD are working together, since there are these two simultaneous cases that we were just discussing?
Well, this is an important moment in the case. As you see, they are now boarding the aircraft that has carried Mangione from Pennsylvania. That is a New York City Police Department aircraft, which is regularly used to scan for radiation along the coastline, often assist with surveillance operations in terrorism cases for the Counterterrorism Bureau and the Intelligence Bureau, and is used on occasion for prisoner transport, which is what we are seeing today. This is a case that really took every single resource of the NYPD from the moment those shots were fired until the moment detectives understood this was not a happenstance. This was a planned hit. This was an organized shooting. And now we are continuing to wait for Mangione to get off the plane. But that meant detectives from Midtown North took this on as a homicide with the Manhattan Homicide Squad. But that also means hundreds of detectives conducted video canvasses for witnesses, and found from store to store, bank to bank, building to building, NYPD cameras. And here comes Mangione coming down the stairs now in his orange jumpsuit from the Department of Corrections of Pennsylvania. And he is being walked by NYPD detectives who traveled to Pennsylvania overnight to pick him up at that hearing. He will be brought to the NYPD helicopter. There are two of them on the ground. He'll be going into the larger of the two, where he will be taken to where Bryn Gingras is at the Wall Street heliport. As she said, this is a 45 minute flight. And from there, he will be placed into the custody of the FBI and NYPD task force officers assigned to that FBI squad, and be brought to 500 Pearl Street in Manhattan, which is the federal courthouse, where we will not see him. He will be taken in through a garage entrance, into an elevator that takes him and the vehicle he's in and everybody else in it down to a lower level, and then he will be processed and brought before a magistrate, unless they make the decision to go to the FBI's offices and go through a booking procedure. They could do that either way.
And John, as we watch this, I'm struck by the spectacle of it all. There are ways to get anybody from point A to point B without several perp walks, which is probably by the end of this long trip, we will see. Especially given the intent that is detailed even more in this federal complaint that he had to make a point and to kill this particular individual, to make a point about the health insurance industry and, again, wealthy executives in particular. Talk about the choice that law enforcement, again, both state now and federal, that they're making to continue to play into the spectacle that he clearly intended with this cold-blooded murder, allegedly.
Well, I believe, based on his actions, or his alleged actions, that his intent was to commit this crime and to get away with it. I don't believe that this is necessarily the spectacle he had in mind, although, ironically, Dana, his manifesto begins with, the words, it's actually addressed to the feds.
Yeah.
It says, to the feds. And then the next line is about how he respects the work they do for our country. So the letter anticipates that he might have been caught. But remember, at the time, he was still in his disguise. He was far away. And it really begged the question, was he going to continue to seek other targets because he still had that weapon with him, or was he done?
And then, just real quick, in addition to or separate from the intent, obviously, law enforcement is very well aware of the way that this is playing, and that there is this macabre support for him in a way that I don't think that we have seen in modern times for a cold-blooded killing that he allegedly committed. Given that, how did the decision of what we're seeing right now get made?
I think the decision on what we're seeing right now, which was how to transport him, stems directly from that, because he's not just become a suspect in a murder, he has become a cause célèbre for an entire sect of the population who's frustrated with health care, with insurance.